Hi, and welcome to this presentation for Sabenthaler Park and the Bennett Property Master Planning Project for the City of Sumner. This is our first open house held live on October 26th. The purpose of this recording is to convey the ideas, the alternatives, and some background and context for the open that is presented at the open house. There will be a link to a survey at the end of this presentation for you to provide some feedback. My name is Juliet Vong. I am with HBB Landscape Architecture and a consultant working for the city to support the master planning process. Michael Walton is also a key member of my team. Derek Berry is our Community Services Manager with the City of Sumner. He is your main contact and the project manager for this for the city. This is a Zoom meeting format for those of you who attend the open house live. We will be guiding through a presentation and facilitating a discussion at the end. We might all be a little bit tired of that Zoom meeting, but it is a great way for us to be able to engage, to be able to listen to you directly. And so we do hope that everyone is able to attend. Recognizing not everybody can attend, this recording will be available on the website. So we start off with what is a master plan, and in some ways what a master plan isn't. It's a long-term vision. The idea here is to identify programming and activities, events, what you want to see and do in the park and the relationship of those activities to each other. We're talking about the scale, the size, is it the right fit? And really, what is that vision, character? What are the values that we want to convey in this master plan? Ultimately, the master plan is intended to guide future implementation. We do not have funding currently for a first phase of construction, and so we're looking to develop a concept that can be used to help the city secure that funding. Our project timeline began back in June. We kicked off the project, did a lot of background and research, did a survey of both of the two park sites. We also had a pop-up event. Derek was out at the Nights on Ryan in order to engage directly with residents and visitors to find out what they wanted to do and see at the park. We had an online survey at that point in time, left live for about a month or so for people to give us some additional feedback. The open house today is to look at the concept alternatives. We're going to be presenting those. We will then take the feedback, develop a preferred alternative for each master plan site, and then convey that back to you as part of a second open house sometime in January. We will then finalize the master plan and then have a third open house if needed. These are our two sites. The outline in red shows the park boundaries. Sabenthaler Park is just north of Sumner High School. You see Main Street kind of bounded on the south end of the site. This really is showing just the north end of Sumner in that aerial view. So from kind of that view from an airplane. Bennett Property sits a little bit further north. It is in the Salmon Creek area and off of East Valley Highway. This project is a continuation of the comprehensive plan and the parks and trails plan that was developed in February of 2018. Sabenthaler Park, you see here, was part of that process. We did some initial concepts based on some of what we heard during the comprehensive planning process. The city has purchased some additional property, and so we're going to be looking at this park site again. And then with the addition of the Bennett property, we're looking at both park sites at the same time. Sabenthaler Park, as it exists today, you can see some of those photos. It is essentially a large open space. It does not have the best drainage, and so we'd like to hear some ideas about what you might want to do and some opportunities to improve the drainage at the site. You can see outlined in orange is the additional property that was purchased to expand the park. There is an existing wetland on that property, and some of the buffer to that wetland does extend into the park site itself. The north end of the park has a great little grove of trees with some picnic and seating areas. The south end has the playground and the basketball court. This is the Bennett property. Again, aerial view, north is up. We are off of East Valley Highway, which is our main entrance. It is the only entrance we have to a public right-of-way. The rest of the park site is bounded by single-family residential. It is essentially an open lawn space now, more of a meadow with its agricultural background and a little bit of vegetation just at the entry itself. One of the core elements of this is being able to activate the park because we are limited in access and we are tucked a little further away from the road. We are very conscientious about being able to bring people into the site, make it feel safe, make it feel welcoming, and also make sure that we are protecting those adjacent neighbors as well. So this really wants to be a neighborhood park that is easily accessible to those community members. The Bennett property has its own interesting history as well. It was originally a farm, but was later housed the radio station. So it actually had radio towers on the site. Chris Bennett Broadcasting purchased the property in 1987 and then used it to support both newsprint and radio stations on the local level and part of a series of broadcasting stations that he held throughout the region. We had our initial pop-up back in August as part of that Nights on Ryan event. We asked people where they lived so we could understand the responses that we might receive. Majority of people who responded to this survey do live north of Main Street or in the city as a whole, as you can see in the green and the yellow bars. We had 256 respondents, which is a great turnout. Everything from pickleball, swings, bike racks, lots of great interest and ideas for what you could do and see how we could improve these two parks. People both like the dog station, that is the dog park that's out there now at Sabenthaler, as well as people that were concerned with it. A lot of interesting ideas, and in particular, a lot of people wanting us to consider spray parks as part of this master planning process. We had a whole list of different activities for people to choose from and tell us what types of activities or improvements were most important to provide at Sabenthaler Park. You can see bolded here the ones that were most important that came to the top of the list, and that's the green and the yellow were very important or most important. The pink and the purple were not so important or just not interested including at all in the two parks. So the activities that really rose to the top are those family type activities: playgrounds, picnicking, trees, planting, walking, things that really allow us to gather, experience, and be in the park itself without a lot of overly programmed use. So it keeps the park very natural and very flexible for a variety of activities. Bennett Property, we have essentially the same results, not necessarily the same scoring, but the same 6 activities that really fall to the top. This is what is, I think, core to that neighborhood park experience. These are some photos of what it can look like, what wetlands look like when they are restored. Of course, this is not what our wetlands look like today on the both park sites. But restoring these wetlands to provide more ecological value and function. You can bring trails through them. You can have educational components and really make it a beneficial feature to the park. Different ideas for plantings. We heard a lot about bringing more trees in to provide shade. Some photos of what a more permanent dog park could look like. And we've highlighted a pedestrian access here. There's particularly for the Bennett property, again, where we were a little bit more hidden back into the neighborhood. We do want to look at opportunities to provide additional access points. I've been talking to a couple of adjacent property owners as a result, and we'll show you what that could look like. Lots of different ways you can develop playgrounds, lots of different characters, materials, themes, ideas, different play elements, shelters and picnic areas. And then, of course, we heard a lot about spray parks in that first survey. We're going to go through 2 concepts for Sabenthaler Park. All of our concepts you're going to see today include loop trail systems, both around the park itself as well as within the park, and some different size loops trails. So lots of accessibility, lots of mobility. They all include open lawn areas and the existing wetlands to be enhanced and improved. This first park concept for Sabenthaler brings in some additional ADA parking and access off of the street itself to make it easier to access into the park. It integrates the entry and a restroom, a way to really define the entrance, to give it a character, to kind of welcome everybody in and provide a space for restrooms, picnicking, and seating. And then by doing that, we actually move the play area, which allows us to expand it as well and integrate a spray park into the space. This tucks the play area and the spray park a little closer to the wetlands, so we have a really interesting relationship and could really have some fun with wetlands and ecology and that backdrop of a natural system within the play environment. We keep the open lawn as the separation, and then because we've shifted the play area further into the park site, we relocate the dog park off to the north and then have that bounded by another open and picnic area in the forested space. In both concepts, we shrink the basketball court in order to provide enough space for these additional opportunities. And what that also will do is provide a little bit easier access out onto 16th. Concept 2 integrates ADA parking again, similar, up tucked in next to the pump station. In this case, we have the entry in the plaza a little bit more linear along Bonnie Avenue and the existing parking. We bring the dog park a little further away from the wetland, so we have a little more protection and space between the wetland and the dog park, and then that becomes essentially a buffer between the basketball court and the entry off of 16th and the play area, which in this case is now moved to the north end. It allows us to expand it even larger, and by doing so, we shrink the lawn area a little bit more, so we're not trying to provide a designated size field, but just a really nice, usable, functional open lawn space. The spray area also gets a little bit bigger, and it tucks everything back up into those trees, so you can imagine a little bit more treehouse theme, something with a little bit more shade, a little bit more opportunities along those lines. All right, moving to the Bennett property, we're going to show you 3 different concepts. All 3 concepts enter off of East Valley Highway. This concept shows parking and access along the south side of the property with a drop-off and an emergency vehicle turnaround off the end of the parking lot. Bringing emergency vehicles in, being able to have them navigate through the site and leave is one of the core elements of this park that is going to be needed. We have loop trails going around the edges as well as throughout the various park elements. In this case, the enhanced wetland stays in its current location, and we integrate some stormwater functionality into that. We bring in the play area, multi-purpose court, and really just a lot of entry gathering spaces with a lot of flexible types of uses, and that forms the core of the central part of the park. A big element in this concept is an expansive open lawn that both provides a lot of flexible use for passive recreation, but it also helps perform a buffer along with some additional planting along the edges and really separate the park uses from the adjacent neighbors. We are showing 2 pedestrian access points. We've talked to both property owners to get some initial feedback. We are showing these as pedestrian only to the north and to the east to better connect into the adjacent residents. Recall, as I said, getting more access, getting easy access, making it convenient, and really activating this park is one of the core principles to making sure it stays safe and accessible to everybody. The second concept brings people in off of East Valley Highway again, but in this case, we create a one-way circulation system that will allow parking and then exiting onto 46th Court East to the north. This would allow both vehicles as well as emergency access to navigate through the site. It eliminates the need for that large turnaround, which gives us a lot more space to then create a larger play area, court surface, more entry, more seating, more landscaping. And in this case, we also brought in some outdoor fitness around the trail system itself. We use the wetland because this is where the wetland currently exists. We need to relocate the wetland and mitigate for moving it. So it gets enhanced, it gets enlarged, and then we integrate that stormwater. So we have a really strong natural connectivity all the way around the edge of the site that enhances that buffer even more to the adjacent neighbors. And then it still allows us to go through that wetland system and connect in a pedestrian only access over to the east. And in this case, we'd have pedestrian, vehicle, and emergency access coming out to the north. In this last concept, we bring people in again off of East Valley Highway. You'll see it is just parking only without that emergency turnaround. In order to avoid that emergency turnaround in this concept, we would have a series of bollards off the entry drive, and this portion of the trail system would be more robust. It would be wider, it'd be a little bit thicker pavement section to support emergency vehicles to be able to come through the site and exit again off of 46th. In this case, it is only emergency vehicle access, no regular vehicles, and it would still allow pedestrian access to the north as well. The wetland stays where it is and is enhanced. We have a larger play area and entry because we don't need to relocate that wetland like we did in the previous concept. We still use the stormwater system to help support the natural processes for stormwater and provide another layer of a buffer to the adjacent residences. In this case, we reduced the open lawn area and integrated a permanent dog park into this space. Because of the size of this and the configuration, we're able to get a little bit bigger space here than we can get at Sabenthaler as well. With that, we thank you for listening to the presentation and us talking about these different alternatives. We would love to hear from you. We invite you to go online and take our survey. You can take a photo and go directly to the link through the QR code here. And then really think about what you like about each of the concepts, how they resonate with you. We're going to ask you what you don't like, or if there's anything you want to change, anything that might be missing from the presentation that you heard, or what is being proposed at each of the 2 park sites. And then to think about, if you had to pick one, what concept would you choose? But more important than what you might choose is why you would choose it. And then at the end of the day, is there anything else you'd like us to know as we start to think about what that preferred concept should be for each of the sites? We really want to thank you for participating. You have another opportunity to go. If you are not confident with those QL codes, you can go directly to the link to the city's website and find the survey there. The website is a great place to continue to stay involved. It's where we will post results. We'll post this presentation as well as the concepts themselves, so you can take some time to really look through the ideas proposed before you go take that survey. And at the end of the day, we really appreciate you participating in this, whether it's at the live event or virtually through the survey and online. Thank you for providing your feedback, and we look forward to hearing from you.